So this is a super brief introduction to Docker. I'll just run through what Docker is, some of the various steps that you will be taking when you're using Docker, and then we'll move right ahead into the example. So these are the few terms that you will need to know. So I try to keep this as light as possible. One is the first is the image. Image will be your dependencies, your installations. So example, you have the Nginx image, you may have the WordPress image, the MySQL image. So the image contains all the installations that you may require, and also other dependencies that are there. Once not the normal workflow, and I will go through this later again, is that you will download this image into your local machine or into some machine, and then you will then run it. Once you run it, it is considered to be like a container because it contains the image whereby it is running. So the image by itself is just what it is supposed to contain, and then you are supposed to run the image onto a container, and then you will do all your interactions with the container itself. All this container, all this pulling off images, everything, it is done to the local machine, and it is managed by something called the Docker daemon. So the daemon would be the software that executes the commands for the various containers. So if you need to stop containers, you need to exec or how to say, or go into the containers to carry out some work. It is managed by the Docker daemon. The last will be the hub, Docker hub. Hub is something like the registry where it stores, registers, and distributes all the various Docker images. So you are in fact able to create your own Docker image and then push it to a registry and make it open to public, where the publicly it will be available to everybody that is on the Docker architecture. So these are the 4 definitions that will be very useful for you to remember during the course of this lecture. You will be interfacing with Docker primarily through the command line interface, the CLI. If you are on Mac, you will be using the terminal. If you are on Windows, you will be using the PowerShell. So the command line interface is merely a client for the server. So it works as a client-server model. The server will be your Docker daemon, as what we mentioned earlier, and the client is just one of the many possible clients that interface with the REST API that sits in between the client and the server. But excuse me, primarily I've seen, or rather I've only encountered people using the Docker daemon through the command line interface, and in this lecture we also be doing that. And lastly, we will go through these are the steps that you would be taking. So for example, if you want to download any image, for example, let's say for Ubuntu or for Linux or for Alpine, you can go on to hub.docker.com, you can Google it, and if it is there, you can try to pull the image down onto your local machine. The command is like docker pull followed by the name of your image. And that is in part 2. Yeah, you pull the image from hub.docker.com from the command line interface, and again from your local machine, which is your terminal or your PowerShell, you can then do a docker container run and run that, and you can start the container to run that image that you have just downloaded. After you have done with running of the container, you can then stop the instance of the image, which means that to stop the container, and then you can also remove the container as housekeeping. If you have no more use for the image, or you can definitely then just remove the image along. So this is a very brief introduction to Docker. I think it'll be more useful to see in as an example how it actually works. And so let's go into that right now.